Hey guys, this is Tierlis here with another Warlords of Draenor beta video. In this video I'm going to be looking into elemental shamans. I originally planned on looking at hunters, but as I started to compile information for hunters, I realized that they're kind of behind in the beta process and they've got a lot of changes, I believe, coming their way. So instead we're looking at elemental shamans. I'm going to look at their major changes, some new spell visuals, their changed abilities, their changed glyphs, their new Draenor perks, and then their new and changed talents. Now, as far as major changes are concerned with elemental shamans, first you should know that they kind of consolidated abilities across the board. And on the surface, elemental shamans don't feel like they've changed very much, but underneath the hood, there have been changes everywhere. And I'm not going to be focusing on changes where one ability was removed and then another ability, like it was tacked on to another ability, because that really doesn't, apply to, it's not something that you're going to notice in the game. You probably wouldn't even notice it going back and forth just because it's not there anymore. So I'm not going to be looking at that, but I will tell you, for instance, weapon imbues have been removed from the game, and you no longer have to deal with that. They're just automatically baked into the class. For instance, as an elemental shaman, everything that gave you flame tongue weapon has been baked into the class. So there are other consolidation of abilities and also some pruning of abilities per spec, and we'll mention those and go through them. But otherwise, that's kind of one major change thing, is that a lot of stuff happened underneath the surface, but on the surface it still feels pretty much basically like your traditional elemental shaman. Another change is movement of elementals. I'm mentioning this only because it was a much bigger deal for elemental shamans. They caused the most uproar when they found out that lightning bolt can no longer be cast while moving. They did this to make PvE more interesting and different. It got to the point where you just constantly were moving in PvE and you never had to stand still for anything, and that takes a lot of game mechanics out of the way. And same thing with PvP. Melee classes were continually getting more and more ways to break movement and parrying effects, so Blizzard responded by giving casters more and more ways to get away from melee, and it just started spiraling out of control, and they're kind of bringing everything back together under control. So those are the two major changes to elemental shamans. Otherwise, the class pretty much feels the same as it does on live. Looking into the changed abilities, the most important of these is the mastery is changed. With the introduction of the new multi-strike talent, it's kind of repetitive to have a multi-strike mastery and then other multi-strike stacks such as Echo of the Elements, and it was just becoming so, there was so much multi-strike and elemental, it was theoretically possible to cast one lightning bolt and have 9 come out of it. Rare, but it was theoretically possible. So they've changed the mastery, they've cut down on multi-strike big time for shamans, and they've changed the mastery to Molten Earth. You damaging spells inside the earth around you to come to your aid for 6 seconds, repeatedly dealing fire damage to your most recently attacked target. I'm going to go ahead and just cast Chain Lightning here on this target, and you're going to see the rocks come out of the ground to the left and the right of me and start attacking this target. So I think it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool spell visual effect to have for shamans. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and take a look at Lightning Bolt's new spell visual. You can see it in the hands of my dwarf there. And then same thing with Lava Burst. You can see the lava in there as well. So an Elemental Blast had all 3 parts of its trifecta, I guess, upgraded to maximum to the new spell visual. So pretty cool changes there. Other changed abilities, Fulmination. Fulmination used to be just to 7 or 9 stacks, and that was with your Lightning Shield. You put Lightning Shield on, and then you would start casting, Chain Lightning or Lightning Bolt. It would add stacks of Fulmination. Well, now it stacks all the way up to 15, and then with a Draenor perk it goes all the way up to 20. And it basically, the damage goes linearly now. Like, before it was more important to make sure that you only use Fulmination when it was at 9 stacks. Now it's kind of okay if you need to do something on the move. It's okay to go ahead and use those Fulmination stacks whenever, because the way it works is your Earth Shock will now consume any charges beyond 1, dealing their total damage to any target. So it's just linear across the board all the way up to the top. So right now it's bugged and I can only get up to 18, but eventually you'll get up to 20. So you can get up to 20 and then you can go ahead and use an Earth Shock to get the full Fulmination strike there. Fulmination shock. Another change has been to Shamanism. That is the one that increased the damage of Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning and then reduced their cast times. Chain Lightning has had its cast time reduction removed from that equation. So small change there, but it is there. Shamanistic Rage now reduces all damage taken for 30 seconds by 30% for 15 seconds. They took the mana equation out of this. As you'll notice, it's kind of a recurring theme. Mana is literally kind of taken out of the equation of management for elemental shamans. Thunderstorm no longer restores 15% mana. Its base, thing to do is just to knock people back. Unleash Elements, with the weapon imbues gone, Unleash Elements is was depending on that, and so now it's gone. So instead, they just, as I said earlier, they directly applied it to Elemental. So Flame Tongue has been directly applied to Unleash Elements. So if I go ahead and click it here, it'll do the upgraded fire spell, and then I can go ahead and cast Lava Burst and get the upgraded damage from it. Last but not least of the changed ability, it's small, but then at the same time it's big for PvP, and that is Hex is now a 1.7 second class, up from 1.5. So it's a PvP, balance change. Now, removed abilities. Elemental lost a ton of abilities, but as I said, this is mostly stuff that works, that goes under the hood, that you're not going to notice when you actually play the class. Bind Elemental is gone. Burning Wrath, which was a raid-wide buff, is gone. Flame Tongue, Frost Brand, and Rock Biter weapons are all gone. Stormlash Totem, which was just a nature damage buff for raid, has been removed. Elemental Focus, which was clear casting state, dealt with reducing your damage, and I think it increased your spell damage a little bit. That's been removed. Elemental Fury, which increased your spell critical strike damage by 50%, has been removed. Elemental Precision, which grant hit based on the spirit you had, has been removed because hit is no longer in the game. And Rolling Thunder, another 2% mana and 60% chance to recover 2% mana, is another mana ability that has been removed from the game. No longer are you going to notice the difference of, you're bad if you don't have Lightning Shield on, but you're no longer going to notice the difference between not having Lightning Shield on and having Lightning Shield on. Your mana is pretty much always going to be pretty much near the top. Another change that came to Elemental Shamans that is removed from the spec specifically is Healing Tide Totem and Chain Heal. Those are now restoration only spells. So, a lot of spells and abilities removed. For the most part, I do not believe you will notice it. There is another spell that was removed, but as I said, it was baked into another ability, so I'm not going to go over it. Now, they did get, however, a nice decent amount of glyphs. So let's go ahead and pull that up. Looking at the first one is Glyph of Grounding, which reduces the cooldown on Grounding Totem by 3 seconds. If you notice, it says exclusive with Glyph of Grounding Totem, the one right underneath it. That basically means that you can only have one of these in your active glyphs at the same time. You cannot have both. I mean, if I were going to go ahead and click here and do this, yeah, it doesn't do it at the moment, but it will be red. It'll red it out so that you cannot do it. So, nice little change there. And there is Glyph of Reactive Shielding, which your Lightning Shield can now trigger once every 1.5 seconds, so they reduced the time, I guess the internal cooldown of Lightning Shield for you. There is Glyph of Shamanistic Resolve, which Shamanistic Rage reduces the damage taken by an additional 30%, but the cooldown on Shamanistic Rage is increased by 60%. So, a little trade-off there. Your Shamanistic Rage can now reduce damage by 60%, but you have that cooldown increase. There's Glyph of Shocks, which is, I believe, was an old PvP glove set bonus. It's now been put into a glyph. And then there are two dealing with Spirit Walker's Grace. First is Spirit Walker's Aegis, which is when you cast Spirit Walker's Grace, you become immune to silence and interrupt effects for 5 seconds. And then there is Spirit Walker's Focus, which is reduce the cooldown of Spirit Walker's Grace by 60 seconds, but reduces its duration by 7 seconds. I honestly think this is something that people will really consider taking, because with your mobility being removed with Lightning Bolt, people are going to look for more ways to get that, mobility back. And I've always felt that Spirit Walker's Grace lasted a little bit too long, longer than I needed. And this, with the reduction of the, the cooldown and then the reduction of the time length, I think it's going to be a really sought after talent. Those are the new glyphs. There really isn't any changes to your glyphs in terms of elemental specifically. So let's move straight into Draenor perks. I originally said in the past 3 videos that I had no clue where Draenor perks were in the spellbook, etc., and I finally found them. They're under the general tab. I never even thought to look there. So here they are. There is Enhanced Unleash Elements, which I don't think it's bugged at the moment. It's not showing in game. Your Unleashed Elements ability also causes you to gain a 30% increased movement speed for 4 seconds. There is Improved Chain Lightning, which your Chain Lightning and Lava Beam increases the damage of your next Earthquake by 20% per target hit by the Chain Lightning or Lava Beam. It's a mouthful. I think they're going to improve the wording of that tooltip. Improved Critical Strike basically restores what you lost, or halfway restores what you lost in Elemental Fury. It increases your critical strike damage. Improved Fire Totems increases the damage dealt by Searing Totem and Magma Totem by 50%. This is a little misleading because Magma Totem has been removed from the Elemental tool set. You no longer will be using Magma Totem. So I'm sure they will fix that tooltip soon in one of the newer beta builds. Improved Lava Burst, straight damage increase. Lightning Bolt, straight damage increased. Improved Lightning Shield, this is what I mentioned earlier. It increases your maximum charges from 15 to 20, so Lightning Shield gains 5 additional maximal charges, and Lava Burst can now trigger Rolling Thunder's effects. That's another thing that they're going to have to edit out because Rolling Thunder, as I said, is no longer in this game. There's also Improved Reincarnation, which increases the health that you reincarnate with by an additional 50%. And last but not least, there's Improved Shocks, which is another damage increase. So they have some, okay perks, looking at all the classes and whatnot. Their perks are decent and so forth. It's nothing to snooze at, but I'm okay with them. They're not the best, but I'm okay with them. There's some classes that got really the worst end of perks. Last thing to look into are the talents for a Shaman. I'm going to start with Elemental Fusion. Before I really get into that, I need to talk about 3 talents. First of all is Echo of Elements. Echo of Elements was another talent that just gave you more multi-strikes. And now with multi-strike being a stat in-game, they needed to cut down on that. So they changed it a little bit. And now as your spells and abilities have a chance to cause your next Lava Burst or Frost Shock to not incur its cooldown. So you'll get kind of a double Lava Surge proc, etc. It's nice. You won't notice too much of a change if you're a real big fan of Echo of the Elements. I personally haven't noticed too much of a change. So, other two changes that I need to make note of is Ancestral Swiftness here. You can no longer turn Hex into an instant casted spell. You used to be able to do that, now you cannot. And then the last thing is a PvP thing, and that's Earth Grab Totem now shares diminishing returns with all root effects across the game. So that's Blizzard's way of reducing the amount of crazy snares and CCs that's in the game, is by having those globally diminishing returns. So that's a major change for Earth Grab Totem. Moving into the level 100 talents, this first one here is Elemental Fusion, which is your Lava Burst and Lava Lash increase the damage of your next shock by 50%, stacking up to 2 times. So I'm going to go ahead and cast a Lava Burst here, and then we're going to stack Fulmination up. Doesn't take long with... Oh, I don't have my Lightning Shield up, excuse me. Must have just dropped off. The Chain Lightning, several targets, it takes no time to get max Fulmination. Alright, we're at max now, but I lost my Lava Burst. Idiot. I'm an idiot. Excuse me. So, give us a few more seconds here, and then we will test out and see what the damage looks like with the change. And we're gonna hit. We got a multi-strike, so we got 24k crit and another 24k hit. Not bad. Got one off a multi-strike, and then I got a regular one. So, It's a pretty cool talent. I don't know who's going to take it and whatnot, but it's definitely there, and it's a nice. The level 100 talent tier for elemental shamans is actually pretty well balanced across the class. So the next one is liquid magma, which is my personal favorite, just because it's so cool. Liquid magma empowers your current fire totem with power of lava, causing liquid magma to erupt from it toward random enemies within 40 yards every 0.5 seconds for 10 seconds. Each glob of liquid magma deals 2,000 fire damage to all enemies within 4 yards. I'm going to attack this target here, and I'm going to see if I can actually get this thing to randomly target stuff. I have never seen it do it, but we shall see. Right now, it's always been just targeting the target that I've been on, so let's pop that. You can see it going over here. It's one of the coolest spell visuals. Oh, it does. That's really cool. So it goes to all your targets. I can't tell you how cool that's going to be when you're in PvP and there's a target running across the thing, and then those little globs of lava are just going to be chasing them across the map. It's going to be really cool. So that's my personal favorite. It's a 45-second cooldown, and it's a burst and so forth. So I really think there's going to get some use out of it. Right now, I believe PvEers are moving towards this next one right here, which is I have to wait for liquid magma to get off cooldown for a second. That is Storm Elemental Totem, which summons an air totem with 6,000 health of defeated caster, calling forth a greater storm elemental to hurl gusts of wind at the caster's enemies. It's basically a lava elemental, but from range. Each gust of wind does damage to an enemy, and then heals all allies within 15 yards for 100% of the damage dealt. So we'll go ahead and move these here, and let's go ahead and pop this bad boy. You can see him there. Oh, he looks awesome. And you can see he's got that healing buff. You can see the healing numbers pop up right underneath me from the damage that he's dealing. So definitely I personally feel like it's a cool buff. I don't like it that it's a 5-minute cooldown. At the moment, I've been reading that PvEers are looking at taking this totem as their main ability. Liquid magma is not quite doing it for them, and neither is the fulmination buff, so we shall see. It's a cool, definitely the level 100 talents of a shaman, they're all kind of equal in my opinion, and they all have their merits. So with that being said, that's the entirety of Elemental Shaman. I apologize for this being a long video, but they really did have a lot of changes under the hood that came to Elemental Shamans. So I just wanted to get all of it so that people who really want to understand the ins and outs of their class understand what's going on with their class. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll be looking into Enhancement Shaman next, but until then, I will see you guys later. Tierlis out.